So welcome to the Global discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. Today, I'm joined by Karen Weaver. And Karen, you're very welcome to the podcast. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, what areas you're focused on, and really just help our international audience understand the world of Karen Weaver. So over to you, Karen.
Hello, Simon. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I class myself as a creative, a leader and a thinker. So I embody all three of those things. And I am an author, a publisher, and a philosopher. And I have been a publisher for over 10 years. I've had over 400 people get published. I own 3 publishing companies under Karen McDermott, and now I write as Karen P. Weaver. And I share my principles. Everyone always says to me, how do you do life? How the hell do you do it all? You're a mum of 6, you're always writing, you're always happy, you enjoy life to the fullest. How do you do it all? So I started writing about it, and people are really learning from my actions and applying it to their own lives and having huge success. So I love it. I love it.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Karen. And just take a step back there, because I know some people who have a publishing company. I don't know many that have 3 publishing companies. So how did all that come about?
Well, I started out with Serenity Press. It's my traditional press. So we have, you probably know Sarah, the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. She's in there. We have some amazing fairy tale authors, Kate Forsyth, Juliet Marillier. They do fairy tale retellings, which is amazing. I love it. It's a niche we actually discovered. And then we have lots of children's book authors. So because it's primarily children's books and fairy tales, for my traditional press, I set up 2 hybrid presses, one of which I publish my books through, which is MMH Press, to service fiction, poetry, and then I also set up KMD Books, which is for my business leaders, thought leaders, futurists, all of that. Because being an entrepreneur in Australia and now globally, everybody comes to me with their books and I join them on the journey. So I'm not just a publisher. Because I'm an author as well, I know the journey and what it takes. So I come at it from all angles, and we go from A to B to C to D, right down to Z.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you mentioned first there Serenity Press and the Duchess of York. How did all that come about?
That's what I call the power of knowing, Simon, one of my little magic abilities. A few years ago, I was sitting and watching a Facebook Live that one of my friends was hosting an event, and the Duchess of York was actually there. I was actually in London, a London event, and my train of thought was, oh my God, there's the Duchess of York. She used to do Budgie the Little Helicopter. I wonder would she like to do a children's book for Serenity Press? And so that was the inspired thought. But I took action on that straight away. And this is what I always do. The things it was, I went and I Googled who was her agent. And I went and discovered who her agent was. Must have written the best email ever. I've never found it. I don't know what I wrote. But within 2 weeks, the business manager of the Duchess had contacted me. We had a few calls, a few meetings, and that was 4 years ago. And we have a 22-book deal, and we've actually set up our own division, Duchess Serenity Press, which launches globally this year.
Wow, a 22-book deal. I didn't know that part of the story. That's incredible. And I do remember, was it Budgie the Little Helicopter, or what was that title she wrote?
Budgie the Little Helicopter. My eldest son used to watch it. He's 26 now. And like, how long ago was that? But it was my train of thought. I remember him loving it. And we've actually published 2 Budgie books based in Australia. So we brought Budgie to Australia. We love it.
Because I remember that when that news hit the headline that she'd sort of penned those, that was big international news at the time.
It was everywhere. I was quoted everywhere. Google alerts were going crazy in my inbox.
Yeah.
Karen McDermott quoted this.
Wow. And you have sort of like a subsection now of Duchess Serenity Press. Is that right?
Yes, we partner now. So the Duchess and I are partners in that, and we have a big list ahead, and we have a beautiful list. We do the kindness collection because the Duchess is all about kindness. So we have our children's books have the essence of kindness in them to teach kids kindness.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then tell us a little bit about your own books then, because you publish your own books under a different publishing company. So how does that work, Karen?
Yeah, so MMH Press is where I write a lot of metaphysical kind of books. So I have my own master gifts, I suppose people call them principles, and I write a lot of that. I also, the first thing I ever wrote was a fictional novel. So I'm actually a fictional novelist as well. It was my first novel's 10th anniversary in November, just gone past, which was really exciting. But I've published over 40 of my own books. I have a lot of children's books, obviously, because I have a lot of children. I have a lot of nonfiction books, which is where I am writing at the moment. I'm actually writing a Think and Grow Rich Mums Rising book to go along with the movie that's launching this year. And I write on my master gifts, which are I call them the 7 master's gifts to live on purpose and without fear, because everyone says to me, "You're fearless." And I said, but there's no fear in knowing, there's no fear when you know where you're going and what you're doing. You just take the next step that feels right. So we've got mindfulness, knowing, intention, love, gratitude, forgiveness, and belief. And they're my 7 master gifts.
So I've got to rewind, because
Yes.
you can't just drop in, "It's about the movie this year," and
Yes.
not give me any more details on that. So tell me a little bit about the business side and the movie side, because that's huge
Yeah,
news too, Karen.
it is. I'm not producing the movie. The movie's been produced by Think Rich Films, which is part of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. But I host a retreat at Crum Castle in Ireland every single year, and so the guys come over and film me there this year.
That's incredible. Well, congratulations on that. Congratulations on the 10-year anniversary as well, because that's only recently passed at the time of recording this. So that's great. And continued success in the busy world of publishing. I can see why people say to you, "How do you do all this? How do you fit all that in?" It's incredible, and then I suppose the last question I've got around that sort of side to what you do, Karen, is, do you have to segment time? Like, how do you actually work that in a practical way? Do you say it's X amount of time here, X amount of time there? Do you have a particular time for writing? How does that work in reality?
Yes, I'm a 5 a.m. riser. So when I'm writing, I like to write early in the morning. So I get up around 5 a.m. And that seems to be where I'm connected to a dreamlike state. So I don't overthink things. So I always recommend, if someone's writing, they do it early in the morning or late at night. Because when you get throughout the day, you start to become analytical and start to overthink. And it's a great time to edit, but not a great time to write. So I always write first thing in the morning, because that's when you're connected to that source, that energy that just gives you the content. I do, whenever I get into a rhythm of writing, I could just flows through me. I'm like this. It's the most magical experience is all I can say it is. And that's why I've written so much. I'm not only author of 40 of my own books, because I publish so many anthologies for other business leaders. I'm in so many anthologies. I think 26 I was in last count. So I think I pulled a load of them into a book called Soulful Entrepreneur or something like that. And just so that they could all be collated, because I try to share a different story in every book. And I'm 45 and I'm running out of stories. So I'm going to have to get more experiences under my belt. But whereas with the companies and everything, I'm really, really blessed, because I've got to a point in my companies where I am able to stay in my genius zone, and I don't have to do all of the mechanics. I have an amazing team of editors. My eldest son actually came out of engineering and fell into publishing, and he loves it, and he's manages things for me as well. And I've just took on a new VA, which is really exciting. So I'm going to have even more time to write and spend in my genius zone, which is wonderful. I love it. So it's just about prioritizing. As a mother, I think I have of 6, I have to prioritize things as well. So, and we had a big thing happen in our family. One of my kids got sick, and it was a diagnosis that was a big diagnosis and shook us all. So I had to allow time for that and for us to adjust as a family to that. And I was able to do that because my companies were set up to allow that to happen. So nothing fell down. So I was very lucky.
Do you know, I love hearing that because, well, obviously the family member is okay, it's a priority. But I was talking to a lady recently, Miriam Simon, and she was saying the same. Now that she'd got to a point where her businesses were kind of up and running, and it allowed her that flexibility and that agility when she needed it the most. And I think that's a really important thing. I have to pick you up on something though. I don't believe you're running out of stories. There's no way that's ever going to happen. Okay, so let's just cover that one now.
Yeah. No,
And
I've got a lot to write. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But I also love that sort of genius state, the fact that you have the business now and you have people around you that help you with that. And of course, why wouldn't you, with the amount of organizations that you're involved in and the amount of work that you have to do. But it is nice that you can stay in that genius zone. I think you're referring to it as to really focus on the stuff that you love, that you've used the word magical as well, that that sort of flow state when the book just sort of starts coming, and it's a magical time. It's wonderful to hear that from somebody who's a writer, an author, and a publisher many times over. So thank you for sharing all that. I really do appreciate it. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, which is always difficult when I ask a publisher about what kind of books that they like to read, because they get inundated with books. They've always got a stack of books. There are books for people watching this on video, maybe not listening to it on audio. There are even books behind you in the video. So when you read, not necessarily for work, but for pleasure, what kind of books are you drawn to? What do you like to read? Are you an audiobook person with everything that you've published? Are you a physical reader? Are you scouring the web? How do you take on board information, and what do you find yourself drawn to if you have time, Karen?
Books are my life, books and babies, Simon. So I do a lot of reading. I love audiobooks because you can do that whilst doing other things. But I do love to just go into a book and escape. There's nothing like it because there's no distractions. You can't do something else whilst you're reading the book. I always say this to business owners, you have a reader's full attention when they're reading your book. When they're reading a physical book, they can't be doing anything else. But I love fiction. So when I'm reading for pleasure, and up and lying on my patio just with a cup or a glass of rosé or something, just reading. I love Maureen Keyes. She's one of my favorites. I love Cecilia Hearn. I don't know if it's just because I'm Irish, but it's just that I end up belly laughing out loud, like, and you just go on this journey with the authors, and I just love it. And there's so many other authors, that I love as well. But Maureen Keyes, I've read all of hers, so I'll go with Maureen Keyes. If I'm learning, and I always say, like, no matter how successful you get, you're always evolving, always learning. So, and no matter how much I write and how much wisdom comes to me, I always like to learn. So I'm always learning from other people in the arena or even outside of. I love to learn something new. So especially when in limbo, because before any breakthrough, I have lots of breakthroughs, but before any breakthrough, there's always the struggle period. And some people are just so uncomfortable with the struggle period that they give up and bail on life, before they have the breakthrough. And for me, it's like, no, don't do it. You just have to ride the wave. Read in that time. That time is a great time for absorbing knowledge and getting inspiration and all of that. And those are the books I love to publish with KMD, are those books that just get you through that struggle period, that distract you enough to allow the uneasiness, because it is uneasy, to allow the uneasiness of that struggle to pass. That's what I love.
Yeah, I love that. And you said something that made me think as well, which is when somebody has a book and they're reading a physical book, that you have their full attention because you can't do anything else. And I'm a big audio book fan too. I've been using it since it became available. And I do like the fact that I can do it and do something else, and there's still somebody, talking directly into my ears. But There's something there's something there that you said that really made me think about that, the benefit of a book and having that full undivided attention. That's really, really good. And what about your own books? Was there a particular book that you have written that was so meaningful to you that stands out above everything else? And sometimes when I ask that question, it's not necessarily the one that sold the best or the one that got the most notoriety, but it's one that sort of you hold dear or that you think of. Is there anything like that?
Well, it's definitely The Visitor, which is
Yeah.
my first book. Now, I don't know where this novel came out of. I never never wrote a novel before. I had been writing a few blogs as an organic writer for a website before that, but I wasn't a writer as such. My studies are in humanities, Simon. I haven't studied as a publisher. I studied humanities at the University of Ulster and community drama at University of Dublin. And but The Visitor, when it called to be written, it was such an epiphany. And then I wrote it in 30 days through NaNoWriMo. And I've spoke so much on this. People who know me will be sick of hearing it. But it was such a profound experience. When all the stars aligned and I started writing that novel, it's as if it took over. The characters just took on. And I had went through some adversity where I had went through a year of PTSD, and I had a double miscarriage, which was my wake-up call, but I never got the answer my heart longed for. And I had been lucky because I had worked in mental health for 4 years. And so I understood what was happening to me, but I didn't like it, not one bit. So I rode that wave, and I came out of it, and with lots of wisdoms. I call it my cocoon period. But that all of that information and the spiritual reasoning why I had the miscarriage at that time just hit me like a big epiphany, and I had to write about it. So I wrote a blog post. It wasn't enough. And then the opportunity was presented to me that NaNoWriMo was starting in 2 days. I was like, I want to write about this in a book. So I said to my husband, you do not have a wife for a month. I will love our children. But and I was so irrational, I had just had a 4-week-old baby as well. So as I was breastfeeding her, I was typing out this novel frantically. And what some people may not know that are listening is that if you write 1,667 words every day, which is achievable, for 30 days, you've got a 50,000 word novel. And I did it. I did that. That's what I done every day. And The Visitor was born then. So little did I know that book was going to be a catalyst into publishing. But not just that, Simon. That book, when it reaches people's hearts that need to read it, it helps them heal from grief. And that's the most beautiful thing we can give someone, I think.
Well, that's lovely. Thanks for sharing that story with us, Karen. That's really important. And you mentioned Belfast and Dublin, and I think people listening and watching this will know there's definitely the island of Ireland in there somewhere. But you're in a different part of the world now, and you've won awards on both sides of the world. So how does that work out? Where are you recording this from, and how often do you get home?
I'm in Perth, Western Australia. I manifested my dream house this year. We live on the beach in Rockingham Beach, Western Australia. It's beautiful and I love it. And we're in the middle of summer, and it's so, hence why, it's just so hot. So we're just very lucky. And I never take that for granted. I feel blessed every single day. And then every year, obviously I'm from Ireland. I live in Perth, Western Australia. I was in Las Vegas in November, picking up Female Entrepreneur of the Year with the Stevie Award, which was an amazing accolade to receive, and one I didn't anticipate, but it was on my bucket list. And when I put something on my bucket list, even, it happens 3 times, which is really bizarre. So I won 3 awards, one for Female Entrepreneur of the Year, one for Maverick of the Year, and one for our Serenity Press retreat. So it was so special, and I'm glad I went there to pick them up, which was fabulous. And also, the 2020 Osmompreneur of the Year winner here in Australia. So when I came to Australia in 2008, 35 weeks pregnant, I waddled here, Simon, 35 weeks pregnant with my third child. It was totally, from the outside world, it looked totally irrational, but I knew with all of my heart that we were doing exactly what was supposed to be the next step. We had locked up a brand new house, and we flew to Australia. We knew nobody, knew nothing about the health system. We didn't even have a house to live in, but we just had this knowing that it was just, there was no wavering of it. I just knew it was exactly what we were supposed to do, and everything just fell into place. And it's just the most amazing experience. And we made it happen, obviously, but everything happened then. And I fell into entrepreneurship, fell in and just started to grow and show up. And my purpose is to have stories get told. And I do that with absolute love and intention. And I believe that love and intention is the super fuel of any success. And I prioritize joy very highly. And I credit that to my mother, because she would always say, if ever I came to her with a problem, she would say, just choose what makes you happy. That's what the answer is. And so, to have that kind of foundation to life, the only way is up, really, isn't it?
Well, I love that, and congratulations on all the awards that you've won. Well deserved, fantastic. I know you're a TEDx speaker. I know you're a Forbes Council member. I know you've won some great awards, but I am very jealous of the summer that you're having down there. So that sounds wonderful from where I'm recording, which is quite cold and wintry. So it's lovely to hear that. So thank you for sharing that with me, Karen.
You'll have to come to Australia, Simon.
For sure,
We'll accommodate.
100%. Listen, I want to change gear a little bit. I have a couple of other questions I want to ask you before we run out of time today. Obviously, throughout your journey, your career, your businesses, your speaking, etc., there must have been people along the way, and this could be back to your childhood. You mentioned your mother a moment ago, or it could just be somebody in business, or it could be somebody from recent weeks. But who inspires you? Who do you admire? When I ask that sort of question, who springs to mind? Are there a particular person type, or are there actual people that you go, do you know what? These people really inspired me.
Well, that's easy. It's people who rise each other up. I was at a recent book launch on Friday night, and the word competitor would not come out of my mouth, because I don't believe in competition. I only believe in collaboration. And Peace Mitchell, who's the most amazing founder or co-founder of Osmompreneur, her and her sister Katie and I are all very close. But they are people who instill belief in other people so that they can find the belief in themselves. And they did it for me in 2015. And I harnessed that and I built upon that. And communities that just rise each other up, everyone shows up for each other. It gives time, the gift of time. So people like that. And I always get inspired by myself in 10 years' time.
Okay, that's a very interesting thing. Actually, nobody's actually said that to me, that it's sort of like a 10-year version of me. That inspires me. I love that. And I think it's not competition, it's collaboration. That should definitely be a t-shirt. I mean, that's wonderful. I love that.
Simon, and I do believe in us all staying in our own lanes, know what we want to achieve, but help others along on the journey, bring everyone along for the ride, stop and have, conversations with people who are your people, you know them a mile off, and that's where your energy should be. Too many people allow their energy to be navigated at negatives. Like, why the hell would you? Why? I don't understand it. I choose to stay up in my little cloud nine and just hang out with people who are aligned and who are positive, because you don't want to fall below the line. That's a personal choice I make every day. We have the choice every day to get up and choose positive or negative. And when we keep our vibration high and have self-care, I always take time for myself. Even though life's crazy, there'll always be time for me to make sure I keep my full cup so that I can be the best for my children, for my authors, for myself, and it's a very important message that has to get out there. We need to stop sacrificing ourselves, especially mothers. I'm very passionate about that. We need to stop sacrificing ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to teach our kids that that's what they have to do. They have to sacrifice themselves for others, whereas it's not, it's the opposite. We have to take care of ourselves so that we can give the best version of ourselves to others.
That's wonderful advice. Yeah. Stop sacrificing yourself and focus on the self-care. I think that's such an important message now more than ever, I think. Yeah.
Everything.
So, yeah, 100%. So I've asked you a bit about inspiration and, that sort of trait that you've shared with me there. At the time of recording this, obviously, you've got an exciting year ahead. You've got a lot of big projects coming down the line. But what's taking up your mental capacity at the moment? What are you thinking about when you look at life? You were talking about looking at yourself in 10 years a moment ago, but I was thinking more sort of the next 6 to 12 months. When you look at the year ahead, what are you focused on? What are you thinking about, Karen, in your world?
You want me to be honest here? My word for the year is joy, Simon. I am in cruise control and I am enjoying where I have got myself to, because I have worked hard to get myself to a position where I can just be. And, I'm not striving to make anything else happen, but I will show up and help others. And I actually recorded an audio yesterday that said that when people get to their destination, you don't know until you get there. That feeling is just like, oh my God, if nothing else happens in life, I'm happy, you know. But I think that you can go and hibernate then. But I think real people who understand the journey and how they got there will want to help others on their journey, because that's what happened for me. I got helped, and so I would want to help others. And so I'm really happy where I am at. I've got a lot of things happening this year, but I will do them with grace and ease and enjoy them. And there will be other things that will come along, but I'm very much a believer of, I only say yes to what's a hell yes and no to what's a no, because if I say yes to something that's a no in my heart, I won't give the best version of myself to it. So, and let somebody else pick up on that. So when it's a hell yes, I always say yes. So, yeah.
I love that. When it's a hell yes, I say yes. Otherwise, it's a no. And
I
you know
had to
what?
learn that, Simon. I was
Yeah,
also a
yeah,
person.
that's a lesson that doesn't come easy to a lot of people for sure. And I love the fact that the hard work pays off. You're in a position where you're talking about the word joy this year. I love that. But also the fact that your focus area is on helping others and helping other people. And you said something about going through with, I've got a lot to do this year, but I'm going to do it, enjoy it. I'm going to do it with ease. And that's such a tonic to hear. That's wonderful. So thanks for sharing that with me. Now, look, I've asked you a lot during our conversation today, and it's been wonderful. But I just want to finish off by asking you if there's anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to raise or share with our worldwide audience. And also, if anybody wants to get in touch with you or reach out and find out more about what you do or get involved or learn more about the type of things that you're publishing, where are you sending people to these days? Where's the best place for people to find everything in the world of Karen Weaver?
Yeah. Thanks, Simon. Well, for me, I just want people to just know that where you're at now, you can build upon it. And what is it that you want for you? A lot of people have changed what their aspirations were. Over the past few years, everyone's life has been turned upside down, and so just stop and pause and just reset and allow yourself that moment to say, what is it I want out of life? And then have the absolute courage to go after, because once you start that ball rolling, I'm telling you, it's the most funnest journey you will ever go. There will be challenges, 100%. There's always going to be challenges. This is life we're living. Life comes with challenges. But when you have challenges that are on the destination, if you set an intention, I call them intentions, not goals, because with an intention you go on a journey, and with goals you have a very focused points that you go to. So when you go on a journey, it's the journey itself will come with challenges, but when you face a challenge with a positive mindset and learn what is in that challenge, you will evolve into the person you need to be, that your big fat audacious goal is the very next step for you. So go for it. There's no reason why you can't do it. I've, gone past all of my big goals going, what? How the hell did that even happen? It's because I have courage and I learn and I face things and go for it. I know where I want to go. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So go for it. And where you can find me, I'm actually having a nice new gorgeous website built out at the minute for my Karen P. Weaver brand. So you'll be able to find me at karenpweaver.com very soon, which is where my author, publisher, philosopher. I'm doing a lot of wonderful books this year for amazing authors, but also a lot of collab books as well. But you can find me at serenitypress.org if you want to go and check out those authors. If you want to go to mmhpress.com, which is Making Magic Happen Press, that's where you'll find my books. And then kmdbooks.com, which is where my thought leaders, business owners, all there. We have a very big book selling platform launching at the end of January, which I am super excited about, that has a karma bank that $1 from every single book sale goes straight to a charity into a nice donation bucket, which is awesome.
Wow, that's big news. So thanks very much, Karen. And you know what? That's a lovely note to end on. So thank you so much indeed. That brings us nicely to the end of this episode of the Global Discussion. I'd like to thank Karen Weaver for taking the time to be with us today. And if you would like to hear more, we'd love you to like, follow, subscribe to this podcast, do all the things that you do with the podcast. And I hope that you'll join me back here for more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. Thank you, Karen. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend time with you again today.
Thanks so much, Simon. And bye, everyone.